Developing news tonight, crews working to contain a wind-driven brush fire that has burned several homes in Southern California. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Authorities say at least 3 homes have been destroyed in San Bernardino County, and that number is expected to rise. What's being called the Edgehill Fire started burning in vegetation this afternoon in the Shandon Hills area of San Bernardino County. It quickly grew to more than 100 acres and leveled those 3 nearby homes. Several other homes have been spotted burning in this same area. Evacuation orders have been issued for people living nearby, and neighbors were quick to spring into action, warning each other about the threat. One evacuee spoke briefly about the man she's calling a hero.
I didn't know him, but he's like a son today. He saved my home. He was so brave. He never stopped. He never complained. I'm truly grateful for this young man. What a hero he is.
There is no containment on this fire tonight, and the cause is being investigated by authorities. There are also no reports of any injuries with this fire, but we are working to learn more. We'll bring you new information on this wildfire as we get it. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris has secured enough delegates to become the Democratic Party's presidential nominee. A virtual roll call has wrapped tonight, solidifying the nomination for the California native just 2 weeks after President Biden dropped out of the race. We are still waiting for the official delegate count, but the DNC has previously said that Harris has already secured enough delegates. Tomorrow, Harris is set to announce her vice presidential running mate. The field has reportedly been narrowed down to 3 candidates: Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. Whoever is chosen will be joining Harris at a major rally in Philadelphia tomorrow. As Vice President Harris considers this important decision, she is seeing growing grassroots support for her campaign that is coming in a not-so-traditional way. As KTVU's political reporter Greg Lee explains, massive Zoom calls are driving momentum and bringing in campaign cash.
Building support and raising money for campaigns typically means big rallies or high-dollar fundraisers behind roadblocks. But in the 2 weeks since President Biden dropped out, this is what a lot of support for Vice President Harris has looked like: massive Zoom calls.
Zoom captures the feel of that excitement, that enthusiasm that has been sparked by Vice President Harris's candidacy.
As Democrats rallied behind the now presumptive nominee, groups began to gather online to cheer her on and donate. It started with a call hosted by Win with Black Women. 44,000 participants gave $1.6 million in 6 hours.
Coalescing around messaging, around strategy, and really around this moment, the moment that is before us.
Since then, it's inspired more identity and interest groups to host their own Zoom rooms, all for Harris. Some of the names include Native women, black men, white dudes, white women, cat ladies, deadheads, and so on. Thousands logging on and raising millions with each call.
And that's very, very effective. That kind of affinity fundraising is very effective.
This is a way that we can all come together and have a conversation and have some fun together and raise some dollars for the Harris campaign.
This week, a group of venture capitalists from Silicon Valley and beyond will hold a Zoom rally, headlined by LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman.
So there's a part of this that is about the election cycle. And there's another part of it, which is about the growing and kind of continuing conversation around the tech industry as to who we are and who speaks for us.
Leslie Feinsig started VCs for Kamala after seeing a vocal slice of Silicon Valley back the Trump-Vance ticket. People like Elon Musk and David Sachs.
I see a party that is strong and unified behind President Donald J. Trump.
As both Republicans and Democrats look to leverage the internet to reach voters, Mr. Trump appeared on the platform Kick with controversial influencer Aiden Ross.
For whatever reason, people seem to like watching. I will say it's an honor to be with you, too.
Political watchers said it's entirely possible Trump supporters could hold their own Zoom calls, but the impact remains to be seen.
It provides a very quick measure of how successful your campaign is. I mean, the enthusiasm that we're seeing over Vice President Harris's candidacy may or may not be matched as broadly on the part of Donald Trump's candidacy.
Greg Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
And Vice President Harris will begin a battleground state campaign blitz with her running mate tomorrow, and it will have her here out west by the end of the week. Their first rally is set for tomorrow in Pennsylvania. On Wednesday, she plans to hold campaign events in Wisconsin and Michigan. Then on Thursday, she'll take part in a campaign event in North Carolina. Then she will turn her attention to the West on Friday with a campaign event happening in Phoenix. Then the presumptive Democratic nominee will travel that same day to Las Vegas. Her official Vegas campaign event is set for Saturday. Then Harris travels to San Francisco. The details on her plans in the Bay Area have not yet been made public. Vice President Harris has new support tonight from some high-profile Republicans in Arizona, of course, a key battleground state here in the West.
I think the time has come for us as Arizona Republicans to admit the obvious and to start saying the quiet part out loud, which is that our party's nominee is not qualified for office, and that we need to vote for the adult in the room, and that is Kamala Harris.
It is time to put partisan loyalties aside and vote for the leadership that will truly represent the people we want to be in the eyes of the world. Character matters.
A group of Republicans co-chaired by Mesa Mayor John Giles and former state representative Robin Shaw endorsed Vice President Harris today. The Republicans say they're concerned about the future of the country if former President Trump wins the White House again. The chairwoman of Arizona's Republican Party issued a statement on the group of Republicans supporting Harris. She said, quote, "The mayor has been endorsing Democrats for several election cycles now. This isn't news, and it certainly doesn't warrant any of our attention. At the AZ GOP, we are focused on expanding support and addressing issues that matter most to Arizonans and the American people." One of former President Trump's 2020 campaign attorneys will cooperate with prosecutors in Arizona in exchange for charges being dropped against her in a fake electors case. The Arizona Attorney General's office announced today Jenna Ellis has signed an agreement promising her cooperation. In exchange, all 9 of her felony charges will be dismissed. Ellis has pleaded not guilty to fraud, forgery, and conspiracy charges. She and 17 others are accused of taking part in a plan to present Republicans as Arizona's electors in 2020, falsely declaring that Trump won the state. The traditional applause at the close of today's trading on Wall Street, but stocks sank during the session today with investors anxious about an economic slowdown. Those recession fears are driving a global market sell-off right now. Here in the U.S., investors appear concerned the Federal Reserve has pressed the brakes on the economy by too much for too long, keeping interest rates higher, all in an effort to try to stifle inflation. Here's a recap of today's stock market plunge. The Dow lost 1,033 points. The Nasdaq dropped by 576 points, and the S&P closed 160 points lower. Fox's Kelly O'Grady breaks down how we got here.
I don't know if this is the start of something really deep like a recession or whether this is one of those blips.
Investors on Wall Street hoping Monday's sell-off is just a blip. Global markets nosedive following Wall Street's slump on Friday after a series of reports showed the economy softening. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the Nasdaq were both down more than 1,000 points at the start of Monday's trading session on Wall Street. The U.S. markets reacting to a bloodbath in Japan. The country's stock index suffered its worst day in nearly 40 years. The Nikkei, now in a bear market, falling more than 12%, its worst plunge since the Black Monday crash of 1987. Now, July's weaker than expected job growth has investors bracing for the possibility of the economy skidding. The latest jobs report came in weaker than expected, with only 114,000 jobs added in July, and the unemployment rate jumped to 4.3%. Now, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell now being urged to cut interest rates as early as this week to soothe investor fears of a possible recession. Investors say the Fed hasn't moved quick enough on slashing rates despite the fact inflation has cooled from its peak in the summer of 2022.
The Fed is behind the 8 ball here. There's no question they've waited too long.
There's speculation the Fed could be cutting interest rates by 0.5% in September.
We've moved from a problem of inflation right now to deflation in prices, and I think the Fed has to act to stop that.
Now, the Fed can step in and make an emergency interest rate cut if needed. In New York, Kelly O'Grady, Fox Business.
And we spoke earlier with financial advisor James McBride, who said that high-flying tech stocks were hit especially hard.
They really have huge price-earnings ratio. So you have, the market was reacting to those assets maybe being overpriced, and I think that was a reasonable expectation. And then I think the market overreacted to the jobs report. Because mark my words, next month those numbers will change.
McBride said that an emergency rate cut by the Federal Reserve, which some are calling for, would be a sign of panic and, in his view, would be unnecessary based on the underlying strength of the U.S. economy. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a man pulls out a shotgun in the middle of a Las Vegas neighborhood, and many say he likely saved lives.
He just drops the gun on the ground, and hands on his head, he said, he's gone. I went, you killed him?
That gunfire stopped an SUV driver who was charging at people in the neighborhood. Coming up tonight, what investigators say led up to this rampage.
And across the West, it will be all about the heat come Tuesday. Giving you a look there over parts of LA. Downtown LA expected to hit 95 tomorrow. Better look at what we can expect coming up.
Also coming up tonight, it's a little like dumpster diving. See how volunteers are strapping on scuba gear to clean up a popular Arizona river.
Hope that was all.
Surveillance cameras capture images of an SUV barreling toward people in Las Vegas, injuring at least 2 pedestrians. Then a man with a shotgun steps in, killing the driver. Now the district attorney is reviewing this case to determine whether this can be considered self-defense. Investigators believe the driver was a disgruntled employee who went on a rampage after being fired. Fox 5's Molly McBride spoke with people who acted quickly to get out of the driver's way.
Richard Osania's outside with his brother, looking at a pile of cinder blocks and a mangled chain link fence. This is the wall the driver of the SUV backed into, mowing down a man in his path.
I was just trying to tell him to lay on the floor, don't move, don't know. Just telling everybody don't touch him, just let him lay there.
The SUV driver didn't stop there. Neighbors tell me he speeds up and down the street in his black SUV, swerving toward neighbors, including Osania.
He jumped the curb and pretty much looked at me and gave a slash throat sign to me. It was rage after that. After that, I'm angry.
Osania says if it wasn't for his neighbor who stepped in with a shotgun, who you see here in the corner, so much more damage could have been done.
My neighbor's a hero. I mean, my neighbor saved the day.
Annette Tiley is that neighbor's grandmother.
Frustrated, confused, hurting, a loss of life.
She tells me her grandson was yelling at the driver to stop as the SUV barreled toward him.
And then he just drops the gun on the ground, and hands on his head, he said, he's gone. I went, you killed him? I said, you do realize by you shooting that gun at that boy and killing him, you saved all of us that were outside and the whole street, because the whole street would have looked like this.
And that was Fox 5's Molly McBride reporting tonight. The employer who was hit by the SUV was hospitalized with major injuries. His condition is unknown tonight. Another person who jumped out of the way of that SUV suffered minor injuries. In the Bay Area, San Jose police are providing new details about a suspected drunk driving crash that killed a beloved community service officer. CSO Long Pham and another officer were providing traffic control for an unrelated accident when they were struck on Saturday night at Monterey Road and Palm Avenue in San Jose.
The adult male driver of a Dodge Charger came crashing through the flares and cones and collided with the marked CSO vehicle. The impact of thrust the CSO vehicle into both CSOs, critically injuring them.
The other CSO, Veronica Baer, remains in serious but stable condition with several injuries. 44-year-old Juan Huerta Palacios of Morgan Hill is charged with vehicular manslaughter and DUI. The Oakland A's have agreed to sell their interest in the Coliseum site to the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. This is the same group that recently bought the city of Oakland's stake in the complex. KTVU's Tom Vakar has more now on the implications of this deal.
The African American Sports and Entertainment Group agreed to pay the A's $125 million for the other half of the Coliseum property, and that is $20 million more than Oakland got for its half. In a statement, AASEG managing member Ray Bobbitt said, "As Oakland natives who grew up merely blocks away from the Coliseum, and as longtime Oakland business owners, we are filled with gratitude for this opportunity to assume stewardship of the Coliseum site." Folks we met in Oakland today seemed ambivalent.
They might as well take the money now since they don't seem to be able to figure out a way to make money out of it. And maybe these guys will.
I don't think that's going to fix the crime around here. It might attract more people, but also more theft, and, I think there are other things to focus on.
Executive sports consultant and entrepreneur Andy Dolich was a high-ranking executive with the Oakland A's for 14 years under the Haas family.
Now comes the hard part. Where's your money? What's the time frame? What's real?
He puts the purchase price in perspective.
This is just an ante in terms of looking at a card game. Seems like a lot of money? Not really. When you're talking, at least on paper, in statements that I've read, a $5 billion development.
Chris Dobbins is a former member of the Coliseum Authority Board and is also a member of SOS, Save Oakland Sports. Dobbins says he knows and likes the buying group's people, but says they've bought into a very difficult effort.
I don't know them as developers. I don't know them as builders. Hopefully they can get this together. Hopefully they can get the financing together. So we're interested to see.
Dobbins' biggest worry is the A's in Sacramento and the stadium dynamics in Vegas.
My concern is that the A's don't go to Vegas. They stay in Sacramento. And that would have two teams in Northern California. Therefore, Major Baseball not going to put a new team there. If they're going to move, have them move to Vegas. So that would open up a spot to have us in there.
Northern California is an incredible sports magnet. So a little bit of imagination goes a long way in terms of what the Coliseum could be.
An excellent example of that imagination can be found right across the bay in China Basin. It was once a most forlorn district, but with sports and medicine, it is now one of the crown jewels of San Francisco and the Bay Area. Tom Vakar, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao said this is, quote, an incredibly exciting day. In a statement, she continued, having one entity control the entire Coliseum site will fast-track much-needed and deeply deserved development in East Oakland. I applaud the A's for doing the right thing and coming to their own terms with AASEG for the county's half of the land. And Oakland A's President Dave Kaval said in a statement, quote, AASEG has a community-oriented vision for the long-term development of the site and will be strong stewards of the property. Their leadership and development provide substantial opportunities and benefits for East Oakland and the broader Oakland community.
Well, across much of the West, a hot one for today and even hotter for tomorrow. Phoenix coming in at 112 degrees. Thunderstorms in the forecast for the Phoenix area, at least the possibility thereof. Giving you a view here across California, the inland parts of the state, 106 in Fresno for today, 114 over areas like Palm Springs. And then as we head over towards Las Vegas, Nevada, 113. So the extreme heat will continue into tomorrow with advisories across many parts of the West. I'll show you those here momentarily. A view of the current temperature is still very hot in Vegas at 109 as well as Phoenix. Areas escaping the heat right along the coastline. San Francisco right now 58, 69 reported along the coast in Los Angeles. Giving you a look here at the satellite view. High pressure there strengthening our direction toward the west, and that is what is driving the heat for tomorrow. Thunderstorms will be a possibility over the Four Corners as well as down over towards the second half, or I should say bottom half of Arizona, including the Phoenix area. Advisory-wise, there is a red flag warning for heightened fire danger over most of Idaho, at least half of the state there, that will expire tonight. Meanwhile, the heat and excessive heat will continue for central southern California and stretch over towards parts of Nevada as well as Arizona into California, including the area where that fire is now burning in the San Bernardino County area. Temperatures will reach to about 100 degrees, maybe even a bit hotter. So the hills, the valleys, the mountains over areas of California going to be hot. But as we take a look at the forecast here over the next few days, again, along the coastline escaping most of the heat. For tomorrow, San Francisco coming in at 68. We've got upper 80s for areas near downtown, and closer to the coast going to be in the 70s. Meanwhile, as we take a peek towards Denver, a hot one tomorrow and the possibility of thunderstorms there with 94 degrees, 110 expected in Phoenix. Alex?
Rosemary, thank you. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, diving for trash in Arizona's Salt River. We'll show you what volunteers have been finding. A group of volunteers hopes diving into Arizona's Salt River will help to keep it clean. Fox 10's Nicole Christine shows us how they've already cleared more than 9,000 pounds near Scottsdale.
Arizona's Salt River has a lot to offer for people seeking cool relief from the blistering heat. But while the river gives, it also can take away as items get lost during tubing or kayaking trips. That's where the Salty Scuba Squad comes in.
It's been a really heartwarming adventure.
The group dives multiple times a week, helping to clean up the waterway and retrieve lost items.
Keys, wallets, watches, Apple Watches, things like that, GoPros, and then, of course, the garbage.
Since April, Salty Scuba Squad volunteers have collected over 9,200 pounds of trash and over 100 phones, including one belonging to Michelle Ballard, who lost it during a trip weeks ago.
We were fine. It was nice and relaxing, and then we figured this is a good spot to get out and stretch. And that was my mistake because I got too comfortable. We got caught up in a crowd of people, lost the cooler and everything, and I just felt like my whole world just died.
She came to pick up her phone today from the squad, who got a hold of her using her emergency contacts.
I'm so grateful for you guys because as soon as I knew that you had my phone, my worries just went away.
The squad currently has 21 phones whose owners they're trying to identify. As for the group's conservation goals, those are simple.
Arizona water's cleaner, for sure. We hope to be able to show people that are coming down the river and they see all the trash on the board like, oh man, I better help with that, and for them to carry that mission on and pick up after themselves.
Reporting along the Salt River, Nicole Christine, Fox 10 News.
And finally tonight, some dramatic new video of a plane crashing onto a Sacramento golf course. A surveillance camera captured that plane narrowly missing a golfer. This happened yesterday at the Haggins Oaks Golf Complex. The FAA says the single-engine aircraft had just taken off from McClellan Airfield when that plane's engine failed, and that forced the pilot to make the emergency landing there on the course. Authorities say the pilot only suffered a minor cut to his hand, and thankfully no one else was hurt. Just remarkable video there. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching. A reminder here before we go tonight, you can stay up to date on all the stories we are covering across the West at our website. That's westcoastwrap.com. And you can stream our shows right there on your smart TV. All you have to do is download the free Fox Local app. We'll leave you with this beautiful shot here of the San Francisco Bay Area. Have a great night.